Hello, my name is Andrew Beckton, and I am an 8th grade teacher at Palestine ISD. And in today's presentation, we are going to be discussing transportation for public schools in Texas, and we're going to be looking a little bit at the state and district policies that dictate transportation. So everybody buckle up and let's get started. Now, for full disclosure, I just want to share some of the sources that I'm going to be referring to or drawing from in this presentation. Most of this information can be found in the Education Code through TEA, and we're going to be referring to certain sections such as 34 and 48, and so that's some of the information that we're going to be using today. Also, for local policies, I'm looking at the bus handbook that is provided by my district. For this particular assignment, we have certain topics of discussion. The first one is to discuss state and district requirements for providing transportation to students to and from school and other school-related activities. Also, we have a prompt to discuss the initial requirements for bus drivers and requirements for maintaining eligibility to drive a bus. Now, before we really get into those topics, I think it is important for us to sort of look at who are the students that we are servicing and the eligibility of those students. So we have two groups in particular. We have special program students and regular program students. And the thing that sort of differentiates these two groups is that only special program students are truly legally entitled for an allotment by the state to be given transportation. And so examples of this would be students who receive special education, or maybe they're Section 504. Of course, one of the sort of rules of thumb is that they should live 2 or more miles from their assigned campus. Now, this may not always be the case for special program students, but in general, we have this sort of rule of thumb about the 2-mile rule. Also, we look at our second group here, the regular program students, and these are students who are not necessarily special education or Section 504, but they do live within the school district's boundaries. And in this case, it is sort of up to the discretion of the district. It's not necessarily a universal right for them to receive that transportation. They certainly will not receive it through an allotment by the state, but we will see an example of my district and sort of how they go about that. Okay, so what are some of the state requirements when it comes to busing students to school? And so routes with 10 or more students must have school buses. Also, some of the safety procedures: there's no standing on buses. It is not permitted at any time. Every student must be seated appropriately before the bus even moves. Color and signage: so school buses must be painted that school bus yellow that we're all familiar with, and it must have a specific black enamel lettering. There are speed limit rules. Some of these requirements are on non-interstate highways, a maximum of 50 miles per hour and a maximum of 55 on interstates. Railroad crossings. So school buses are legally required to stop at all railroad crossings and proceed only once cleared. And of course, stopping laws. Other motorists must stop for school buses when red lights are flashing, unless the road is divided by a median or physical barrier. Now, those are the state requirements, and my school district does follow those as they should. But one of the local policies that I noticed that sort of differentiates, and this kind of goes back to our students that we service, is that it says here in the book, Palestine ISD offers transportation to and from school as a courtesy for every student residing within the district. So that 2-mile rule of thumb is not really applicable for my district. So that's probably the main difference that I noticed. When it comes to school-related activities, extracurricular activities or such, the rule of thumb is 15 or more students would require a school bus, as to where less than 15 could use passenger cars or vans. Now, when it comes to the drivers themselves and the certain requirements that they have to fulfill, when it's initially they're becoming school bus drivers, is that there must be a minimum age of 18 years old. They must have a commercial driver's license, a Class B, with certain entitlements, such as the P and the S endorsements that allow them to drive both public and school buses. They must pass a knowledge and skills written test, pass a driving skills test, and then, of course, pass a medical exam by the Department of Transportation, as well as a background check and a school bus safety certification. Lastly, to maintain eligibility, there is an annual physical examination, again by the Department of Transportation. There could be random drug testing, which they must pass, and then, of course, they need to maintain a clean driving record. Also, it's important to keep up with all CDL requirements, so if any endorsements change, those do have to be reported. And of course, recertification training pretty much includes an 8-hour course every 3 years to stay updated on safety protocols and regulations. Again, other reporting obligations are necessary, such as criminal convictions or license suspensions. So those must be reported to the employing school district. That's all I have for this report. I hope you found it informative, and thank you for your time.